Let's talk about the current state of video games and why I don't feel too optimistic about the future of it. Oh, what? A lot of people have told me I come off as being very cynical and very negative when I talk about games and the gaming industry. And I promise you, it all comes from a place of love. I've been gaming most of my life. One of my earliest childhood memories is me playing Atari in the living room. But I have a unique point of view because I've been gaming a lot longer than most people that I associate with. A lot of people, their first console was the PlayStation or the PlayStation 2. I've been gaming since the Atari days. Atari, NES, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Dreamcast. I've been there. I've seen how games change and evolve over time. I see how the gaming industry has changed and evolved over time. And there was a time when the industry was very creative, very innovative, and things were always different. Things were always improving. Things were always getting better. Nowadays, it seems like every game is the same. Nothing is really changing. There's no innovation. If you've only been gaming for the last 10 years, 15 years, even 20 years, you haven't been gaming that long, you might not see it. And I'm gonna tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with enjoying games the way they are. Games are actually fun the way they are. I still play them the way they are. But I don't look at games as in, this is just how they are and I'm just having fun with it. When I look at games today, all I can see is how they could have been better. And I'm starting to see that the games are being homogenized and they're all the same. And without actually experiencing the progression and the evolution of the games industry, without being there, I can understand how a lot of people don't share the same opinions. They just know they're having fun with what they're playing. All right, I won. I see what their games could have been. I see how they could have been better. Don't just take my word for it. It's really easy for me to just state my opinions and say how I feel about stuff. We all have our own opinions, but I'm gonna let somebody else explain it to you better. We all know Steve Jobs. He is the genius behind Apple. He has a very unique talent for understanding how business works, how markets work, how people think, and what products they want. I think he, better than anyone else, can explain to you why the gaming industry is taking the turn it's currently taking. And I actually believe if you love games as much as I do, one day you might become just as cynical. One day you might start feeling the same way, or one day you might start burning out on video games and you don't know why. I'm gonna allow Steve Jobs to explain it.
No, I was just...
Why?
Yeah, why?
Oh, I actually thought a lot about that, and I learned more about that with John Scully later on, and I think I understand it now pretty well. What happens is, like with John Scully, John came from PepsiCo, and they at most would change their product, once every 10 years. I mean, to them, a new product was like a new size bottle, right? So if you were a product person, you couldn't change the course of that company very much. So who influenced the success of PepsiCo? The sales and marketing people. Therefore, they were the ones that got promoted, and therefore they were the ones that ran the company. Well, for PepsiCo, that might have been okay, but it turns out the same thing can happen in technology companies that get monopolies, like, IBM and Xerox. If you were a product person at IBM or Xerox, so you make a better copy or a better computer. So what? When you have a monopoly market share, the company's not any more successful. So the people that can make the company more successful are sales and marketing people, and they end up running the companies. And the product people get driven out of the decision-making forums. And the companies forget what it means to make great products. Sort of the product sensibility and the product genius that brought them to that monopolistic position gets rotted out by people running these companies who have no conception of a good product versus a bad product. They have no conception of the craftsmanship that's required to take a good idea and turn it into a good product. And they really have no feeling in their hearts, usually, about wanting to really help the customers.
I think he explained that better than I could. What he's essentially saying is when something is new, it's the creative people who create something good and then people start to like it. Eventually, those creative products start making money. They continue to sell their product by making something that is good. word of mouth spreads and people are buying the product because it's something good, it's something brand new. Eventually you get to the point where, just like Pepsi, you know, only so many people in the world are going to drink Pepsi at once, and you're selling to the same customers. You're making the same money this year as you made a year before. So how do you make more money? You have to find a way to get more customers, which is really hard because you're already selling millions of copies every year, and they're all selling for $60 a pop, making the same amount of money. So how do you make more money? The product people, the people actually making the video game, doesn't matter how good they make it, doesn't matter how many improvements they add on to the game, it's still going to sell to the same amount of people. The marketing people, they come up with ways to get more money. This is why we have DLC being shoehorned in games. Yeah, 5 million people bought your game, but how do you make more money off those 5 million people? This is why we see stuff that's usually included in the game being cut out and then sold back to us later. This is why games like Call of Duty, for example, which always had a single player campaign, had its single player campaign cut out and replaced with the Battle Royale. Battle Royale is hot right now, and that's what people are playing. Battle Royale gets people spending money on microtransactions. I know so many people who played Call of Duty just for the campaign. They didn't go online. One of my best friends and his wife would play every single Call of Duty together. That's what they did. They bought the newest Call of Duty, not knowing that the single player campaign was cut out of it. And boy, were they upset. But this is why this happens. The single player campaigns only be played through once. You're not going to make any more money by adding the single player campaign to the game. But if you replace the single player campaign with Battle Royale that's played over and over again and then put a bunch of microtransactions in it, you're going to make more money. The games that you're playing, the design process behind them, everything about them is being changed, not to make it a better product, because making it a better product is getting to the point where it doesn't really make more money. They're changing the games in a way to where the people who already buy them are going to make more money, or they're dumbing down the games to make them quicker, to pump them out faster, to make the games cheaper, but selling them for the same price. This is where we're at as far as gaming, and this is where gaming's going. If you don't currently feel that way, if you're still having fun with games now, I understand. I'm not saying the games are not fun at all to play. I'm saying this is going to continue to get worse. I feel as though a lot of people who don't see this as a problem, if you're happy with games today, 10 to 15 years from now, you might be like me, and you might be like, dang, man, I remember when Mega Man, like picture this, for example, you'll be like, dang, I remember when the Mega Man franchise actually had Mega Man in it outside of DLC. Like what I'm saying is, imagine they're gonna make a Mega Man game and they're gonna have every character in it but Mega Man, but if you want Mega Man, you could have them for an additional $10 as DLC. They're starting to get to the point where they're cutting out core content in games. The newest Mortal Kombat 11, you have to pre-order Mortal Kombat 11 just to get Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn, if you ask me, is a default character. He is a default Mortal Kombat character. And you're gonna tell me I have to pre-order to get a character that should have been in the game? And knowing damn well, when you probably started developing the game, he was actually intended to be a default character. And then right before the game released, the marketing team probably said, what can we do to get more people to pre-order and therefore guarantee more sales? Hey, let's cut out one of the characters and then give them back as a DLC reward. I guarantee that that's basically what's happening as far as games. This is why I sound so negative when I talk about games, when I review games, because I see what games should be. I see the direction and innovation that games were heading in, but they're not anymore. Why do you think Madden is basically the same game every year with slightly better graphics? And we're gonna talk about graphics. Let's talk about that. One of the main things that separates games from other mediums, if you notice, like as far as movies are all the same. It's the same superheroes, Batman, Superman. You know, or they follow the same story arcs. You know, you got the chick flicks that have the same story, the same plot, same story progression. It's to the point now when you sit down and watch a movie, you already know who the villain is. You can already guess the plot twist because it's been done so many times. Now notice, I'm not saying the movies are necessarily bad. Movies are not really innovative. Video games have a unique position as far as entertainment because video games have always evolved with technology. Like movies, to make the comparison back to movies, yeah, now we have better computers and we got CGI, but the CGI isn't really making the movies any better. You know, they're not making them any more enjoyable. Look at it back in the day and look at that terrible special effects, but people will still tell you that's a great movie. The special effects are nice, they add to the movie, and I take that back, they do make the movie a little bit better, but they're not a deal breaker for the movies. The difference is when we first had video games, we had computers that can barely do 16 colors. You know, we had little blocks on the screen, didn't have a lot of detail. As technology evolved and we had better graphics allowed us to make different games. So we had more varied, more innovative games. We had people experimenting with just what they can do because they had more colors. This is where we started getting advanced GUIs, and we started, you know, just the games basically changed just based off the graphics improving. Now we have better sound in video games. So now you can actually play games that are based off of sound. Or we're getting to the point now that we can actually have voice acting in video games, where games are voice acted. And because games are voice acted, we can change how the game's played just by what you listen to. What the characters say is now part of the gameplay. It wasn't like that before. So because technology has always been evolving, and technology forced developers to think what is the best way we can incorporate this new technology, it helped video games keep evolving and staying innovative just because we had new technology to work with. Just going from 2D games to 3D games made a huge difference. We have games in 3D that could have never existed in 2D. There's so many different things that are in 3D that just could not happen in 2D. The problem that I'm having now, and this is why this is more of an issue now than it was back then, because I guess games were always solidifying a little bit back then. They were always being shoehorned into genres a little bit back then, but the shift in technology allowed them to still innovate and try new things. We're getting to the point now where the shift in technology isn't really helping games evolve. Like, yeah, games are looking better, but they're not really looking that much better. Like the increased pixel density, the increased frame rate isn't really allowing us to play different and unique games. We're just playing the same game with a slightly better coat of paint. We're just playing the same games with a slightly better frame rate. Now that technology, or the improvements to technology, are no longer adding anything new that changes how we play the games, now it's becoming more obvious, it's becoming more felt that the shift to get people to buy games isn't companies trying to take advantage of new technology to make it a good product. They know you're going to buy their game every year, and they don't need to change because the shift to technology doesn't give them any benefits. It doesn't give them anything to experiment with. So the changes they're making to games now is what the marketing team's doing. Like I say, the DLC, the cutting content from games, or the game design decisions that are influenced by money over better game. Does EA really have to make a better Madden? Only thing they have to do at this point is really just update the roster and make some slight tweaks to it. You're gonna buy it anyway. Call of Duty's there too. Well, no, there's a lot of people that are upset about the lack of campaign in Call of Duty, but most of those people are gonna keep buying it anyway. So when you hear me complain about video games, when you hear what I'm talking about video games, I want you to understand something. The number one thing I like about video games is what makes video games unique from other media. Movies have stories. They have good stories. They have good acting. There's video games that have good stories. There's video games that have good acting, good voice acting, whatever. But the good story isn't what makes the video game unique. It's the gameplay and how I play it and how I interact with it. That's something that's unique to the game over the movie. Games, what's unique about games is no longer being innovated. It's starting to become stale, and it's starting to be the same thing. It's not just so much that I see games being stale and just being the same games. I'm actually seeing games start to regress, and I'm seeing innovation go backwards. It seems like people who are making games today, or people who are in charge of making games, they don't really understand how games evolved and got to where they're at. So this is why I feel the way I feel about video games. This is why I come off as being negative. I like games, but I can definitely see that everything he's saying when it comes to video games is true. This is what's happening right now. If you don't see these problems, it's probably because you don't notice a change. Because I'm not trying to talk down to anybody, but you like games the way they currently are, and it's gonna be a while before you actually start seeing how games become worse. And that's why I say give it 10 to 15 years, and you're going to start seeing the stuff that you used to love about video games is being cut out, changed, altered into something else that just makes more money. You might not even see it as just them making more money. You're just gonna see them making bad decisions for video games, or you're just gonna be playing a video game and it's not going to be as fun as you remember. You're still gonna like it, but you're not gonna like video games as much as you used to, and you're gonna wonder why. And when you wonder why, I want you to remember this video. I'm your boy Twiz. Don't forget to like, comment, follow, and subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for supporting my channel. Laters, y'all.